So first of all, happy birthday, Tom.
Thank you.
Now, tonight's programme's interesting. We've had, during the pandemic, the shape of programmes has changed quite a lot, so we're not having an interval and things like that. We sadly don't have an audience in the building. But you've chosen one of your own pieces and Sibelius' Sixth Symphony. So apart from the fact that we've got the Sixth Symphony and 7 Days, why have you chosen those two pieces?
Well, I've just turned 50, and Sibelius was in his 50s when he wrote the Sixth Symphony, so I don't know whether that gives me any kind of special feeling about that piece. But I do have a special feeling about that piece. And I think it's a work that is a kind of about the healing power of nature. It's a very pure piece, you know. There's at a time when the world had been through this trauma of the First Great War and then the influenza epidemic and all that. And the world changed very traumatically. And artists responded in a variety of ways, you know, highly coloured, new styles, new harmonies, many different things, much of it, what Sibelius described as cocktails of different colours. And he said, I'm providing clear water in this piece. And it is particularly pure. And so, I don't know, I'm just very drawn to it at the moment. And I thought it, because of the nature in it, I feel that it's very much by someone who lived out in the countryside in Finland, where it's, you know, great expanse. So my piece is also, in a sense, about nature, and you know, in a very specific sense, like all of it, including us.
Yeah, it's interesting. You said something yesterday in rehearsal, doing the Sibelius, that it felt like it's sort of matter of fact. You know, you didn't want us to take time and sort of be quite plain.
I like that. I think it responds well to that. I think because there's no rhetoric in the piece at all. It just, things are just what they are. There's nothing extra added on top. And I like that in a performance of it. I think it yields its secrets more. It's not public music in that way. I can just sort of picture him alone in the forest and thinking, there's one too many people here. Yes. What would it be like without me? So that's what it sounds like to me. It
reminds me, we did a performance of the Fourth Symphony with Davies a few years ago now, and I remember the way that piece finishes in a very sort of perfunctory, it just finishes, and I remember Collins just closing the score and saying, well, that's all there is to say.
Yeah,
and there's a feeling of that with this symphony.
Definitely, as well. Yes, it has this extraordinary sort of, there's a kind of shrug about it. Like, well, what do you want? That's those are the facts. There it is.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful piece, as is yours. Now, we have our soloist this evening as well, Kirill. Now, I know you two have had a relationship of sort of musical 10 years, I think, back in 2012. You were working
with this piece.
With this piece in Boston.
With this piece, 2012, in fact, some things before. We did Les Noces together. That was the first thing. That's even a few years back.
And so when you started playing Tom's music, did you feel a particular affinity for it?
I think I felt a particular attraction to it, but I remember the first half an hour with this score was very humbling, because I just stared at the first page of the piano part and then closed it, because it wasn't familiar to me, the way Tom describes his music on paper, so to say, not to use the plain word notation. So the attraction to the sound world, I think, was there, starting with that early EMI CD of Tom's music that I bought in the early 90s. And but then I think hopefully more and more affinity, or as I've described it, the relationship with Tom's music feels like, you know, relationship with the music of Beethoven or Schubert, that, you know, it's there and you become more and more home in it as the years go, and more pieces that I play of Tom's and know of Tom's, and even our rehearsals, also now coming back to In 7 Days. I think last time we played it about a year and a half ago, and and again, it feels different in a wonderful way. You know, something changes, something grows, which is always a sign that the substance is rich and genuine.
There's a really amazing way, because having rehearsed it without you yesterday and then with you today, the way that you use time in the orchestra. I mean, often there's a time signature, but we're all playing around it. I mean, that's something which you do amazingly well.
I think it feels like wading in and out of highway traffic, you know. Sometimes you have to take your space, and sometimes there's an opening here, and sometimes, yeah, like you say, it's very much surging in a way that's both very controlled and at the same time it's like dictated liberty, I would say. There's a lot of liberty, but it's very dictated by the creator, and that's rather marvelous.
Yes, that's for sure. Now, it's quite unusual to be able to play with the composer, but also you've been the soloist in this piece as well.
Only once, yes.
Honestly, do you prefer conducting it, or
never again?
Conducting, playing, or just sitting and writing it?
I mean, conducting it is. I mean, Kirill's doing all the work. You're doing all the work. I don't make any noise unless I hit something accidentally. And it's no. I just have to. All I remember about playing the piano part was watching the conductor, who was a very good conductor, and just thinking, just please make sure you show me the downbeat, because I was just remembering to when I conduct it, I remember don't get too fancy because people are actually watching you.
Oh yeah, I mean, you say you don't make much noise, but actually I think this is one piece where it's so important. I mean, particularly the sixth movement, where you're conducting in one and there's just multiple things going on, and then you suddenly think, no, this actually has to fit with this, and then as you say, the traffic moves slightly.
That's the movement which is about humans have finally appeared, and basically everything breaks down quite quickly.
That's for sure. In the last year has been a very strange time. Have you managed to be creative during that time? Have you been able to compose at home? I mean, I guess a lot of people watching may think it's the perfect time for a composer. Yeah. It's quiet and nobody's annoying you and you can get on with it.
Well, in my experience, they'd be absolutely right. That's exactly what happened. And I was very grateful, for all the time at home. I mean, obviously, that's not the way I would have liked it to happen, of course. But that was, for me, a lot of things. I've now almost caught up with what I was supposed to have been doing, so I don't like to think what would have,
Yes, exactly.
But I mean, there's an awful lot that we need to catch up with in other ways. I mean, we were in the middle of, like everything,
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, no. I'm afraid there's going to be an overload of new pieces by me by the end.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. That's good news. And what about you, Kirill? Have you found this a sort of a useful time or reflective? How have you?
I think yes, but in a sense, all the time should be useful and reflective, and even the useless time is useful in that sense and reflective. And so, yes, I think this time has also been productive for me. Of course, it's different since we're all used to encountering other humans listening, and this act of communal listening, as great as the streams and the filmings and recordings are, but this act of gathering in one space and paying attention to something, that is sorely missed. But the substance of music, be it Tom's, be it Sibelius, if you think what a Sibelius symphony has gone through, including the Second World War or the pieces from Beethoven's time, and I think the substance is as vibrant as ever, and that hasn't dimmed at all. And I think that's also the core that has helped me not go crazy, especially as an instrumentalist, because they're finally, concert or no concert, you go to the piano and there are things that somehow work, and then there are things that you wish you could do that you can't quite do, and then immediately I feel, okay, so I'm there and this is interesting and the substance is as vibrant as ever. So I've been very involved with music, so less concerts now. We hope it comes back, but I think somehow that the substance is there and it has gone through many turbulations in the world. I find this reassuring.
Absolutely. No, I'm sure there's a huge pent-up demand from performers and audiences alike, and hopefully we'll be getting back to live concerts soon. Kirill, Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you, Gareth.
Thank you.